Good morning. Quite easy to learn the lyrics on that one. They do say some other things in Latin, which I'm afraid I rather like. But I'm just saying, lucky me as ever. Kitty Chen. Let there be light. I had a minor training in singing, completely amateur. In my youth just the other day. I'm going to finish that tea at the end. Words. Now, so life goes on. I've just been listening to a long interview. There's a pretty good journalist, sort of liberal, nice young chap. He's been out to the West Bank in the Holy Land. So his name is Owen Jones. He has quite a wide following on YouTube and elsewhere, probably. A journalist. Speaks eloquently and gets all sorts of people on. And an older man, my age, just younger, 68-year-old chap, used to be, I think, editor-in-chief of the Telegraph and great supporter of Mr. Thatcher, so I'm afraid on that he and I fall on different sides of the fence. But I'm 69 anyway, so I just remember the Falklands War, for instance. Gotcha, the Belgrano 1500 young Argentinians dead, or whatever the figure, and all of that. Gotcha was the headline on the Sun newspaper. I'm not proud of Britain. This chap Oborn is. No, sorry. Mind you, they're promoting his book, sort of, but no, they focus. It's Britain's. I don't know what the title is, but it's Britain's involvement and the Israeli lobby and Israel and the current circumstances and how we got here and the sort of recent historical, i.e. going back at least to the Balfour Declaration, which was 1917. But, he's degree from Cambridge and all that sort of stuff. Light blue, that is. I applied to King's College. No, to Jesus College, Cambridge, and I said, ended up in Bristol, very good university for medicine in the end, but there we go. The poor old Palestinians, basically. Figure out that quoting is that the Palestinians and largely Muslim and some Christians, almost exclusively no Jewish people in the Holy Land, certainly under the Ottoman rule. So, I mean, we're going back to the 1400s here, when the Dome of the Rock, the mosque, was built on the old Second Temple ground footings. And that collapsed, and so on and so forth. I'll go back to Abraham. So there's the three Abrahamic faiths: Jews, Hebrews, Israelites, Christians, and Muslims. Albeit that Ishmael, the bastard child through Hagar, Sarah. Anyway, Abraham's wife. I don't know why, but for some reason, sorry to slightly digress, but he started off as Abram, married to Sarai, Sarai, and then their names changed at one point. I must look it up. It's in Genesis. he became Abraham and Sarah, and they couldn't have children 80-year-old, but God said, sleep with your wife's servant lady, Hagar, and along came Ishmael. So Ishmael then came before Isaac, so there was a child born of that marriage in wedlock, who, if you like, is the foundation of the Jews, the Hebrews, the Israelites, coming the three Abrahamic faiths. But Ishmael actually came well before the Christians. Abraham is about 2,000 years before Christ. So in a sense, the Muslims, he was their prophet, if you like, and Christ is mentioned or many times as a prophet in a line of prophets in the Quran. Anyway, that's sort of a sidetrack. Britain's role in the Middle East, certainly since the Balfour Declaration, 1917, and then it became under British mandate Palestine from 1922 to 1948, when it was declared it was the state of Israel. So Britain heavily involved. And then just how false the whole thing has been to the Palestinians, the Arabs, the lies. I mean, what did Spike Milligan say to then Prince Charles? I think you're a lying bastard or something like that, at some big fancy show event. Well, I mean, my opinion of politicians is, yes, we have to have someone to run the country, but they're can't find the right word, but they're certainly not honest, good, and true. I'm, if one likes, in the fortunate position, in one regard anyway, of being completely apolitical. I'm not attached to anything. I'm not part of any organization. I am a Christian. I'm not a Benedictine monk through the Roman Catholics. I've looked long and hard at that through decades of my life. And I'm not a priest through Very High Church of England. I've looked even longer and harder at that. Thank heavens I'm not locked into that organized church, purportedly Christian church of mankind. As far as I'm concerned, it's completely lost its way. The Roman Catholics do at least trace their origins back to Peter, as in Peter, Petrus the rock, Christ's, one of the first disciples of Christ. But as far as I'm concerned, as I say, I've looked into that for decades of my life. I lived in Rome, I've lived in Assisi, I love St. Francis of Assisi and Santa Chiara, St. Clare of Assisi, and so on and so on. It's become an organization of man now as well, too steeped in its history and traditions and stuff that have grown up. I'm afraid I just don't like this new Pope. I just he may be a very genuine fellow, but I just don't like him, I'm afraid. But there we go. Pope Pio, is it? The 14th? So, Britain's role in the current, and then coming to the current situation of the genocide being perpetrated by Israel in the Holy Land, the ethnic cleansing, crimes against humanity, and the way British politicians, etc., those on the public world stage, are responding or not responding, basically, cowed by, he was calling it the CFI, Corporate Friends of Israel, that's what it is. I'm a Christian, blessedly. If you live by the sword, you will die by the sword. God is the boss, okay? I was actually the best physics student at school. Whatever. So, 10 to the minus 42 seconds after the Big Bang. What happened before the Big Bang? Obvious question. We don't know. No one knows. As a Christian, I say there was God. 10 to the power of 100 noughts years into the future. The whole, this is, I don't know how they work this out, but there's a very good lecture from a Welsh astrophysicist at the Royal Institution in London, Christmas lectures and so on. I was a member there. Albemarle Street, it's on Piccadilly, London, England. 10 to the power of 100 noughts, the whole universe, all the energy, everything, all the galaxies, thousands of millions of galaxies. This James Webb telescope is looking even more with more detail into the universe and so on. The whole thing, including, of course, our galaxy, which is a medium-sized spiral galaxy, our sun, which is just a sort of medium, average kind of star. Don't want to get too close. Your wings might, the wax might melt and you'll fall into the fiery furnace. That's what's going to happen at the end times. Armageddon. That energy is going to collapse into nothing again. So, what will there be then? There will still be God. That's eternity. That's what my faith teaches me. Up there somewhere. And he's not a geezer, God, with a long beard, sitting in a cloud. He's everything. He's the Alpha, the Omega, etc. But in the meantime, Britain's role in the Middle East, and it's rubbish, basically. Wishy-washy, kowtowing. I mean, this guy is a Thatcherite, and he's saying how Mrs. Thatcher would just not have tolerated this. Just recently, Israel and American assistance heavily bombed Persia, Iran. Well, that's a declaration of war against a sovereign state. And any word now against what the Israelis are doing, so I make the distinguish between the Israelites in the Old Testament, if you like, and the current Israelis, who are largely secular, Zionist, white, formerly European Russian Jews, Hebrews, but that's their. There was the diaspora, AD 70, the second diaspora, when God dispersed his chosen people around the world, and now not to return to the Holy Land until the second coming of Christ. Listen to Rabbi David Weiss of Neturei Carter. He is a Jewish rabbi, very ultra-Orthodox with the hat and the curls, and he knows his Torah, the first five books of the Bible, and Jewish studies and etc. So they jumped the gun. They're living by the sword now, and the inevitable conclusion is going to be their downfall. The current state of Israel will fall. As will the current Babylon, America, based on money, will fall. This is Matthew chapter 6. You cannot serve two masters. You either serve God or money. And America essentially serves money, albeit purporting to have a Christian, and I'm sure, very genuine Christian souls in America, as there are blessedly throughout the whole world now. I listen to my old monks through the night. I seem to like this time of day, but I get a good sleep, knock off 7 o'clock in the evening, so I get a good rest. 9, whenever, or up or not, it doesn't seem to matter to me. But I will be able to rest at another time, so I'm not troubled about the time of day I'm up or not. I can put in sort of 16, 18-hour days if necessary. Right. I think that's my ramble. The answer is to love God through Christ, to open your heart to loving God through Christ, stand firm, get on with one's life. That's what I'm trying to do without being too distressed by the awfulness of the world. I mean, Sudan they're talking about now, but that hasn't just happened overnight. 11 million people displaced, they're talking about. Starvation there. And what are they fighting about? I don't know. There's Somalia, Ethiopia, Jammu Kashmir, India, Pakistan, Venezuela, they're rattling swords. The whole of Central Africa, America, there's been trouble. Colombia, I don't know, you could just Chad, Syria, just to mention a few where there is awfulness going on. I have a very good friend, keep in touch over the years, Welsh, Paul Reese, his name is, Welsh name. Anyway, he sent me a little doodle of a bee, saying, which I could show you, but anyway, B-E-E, as it were, happy. For whatever reason, my fingers found his email of a few years back, actually, when he's born, at least a year ago, sent me that. So, be happy. Love God through Christ. Love your neighbour as yourself. There we are. Love, 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 love. Love is the answer. Why is there a W in there? Why isn't it A-N-S-E-R, answer? Cheerio. Return to my old monks. I start with the Carthusians at midnight, and they pray every night in Gregorian chant Latin, and then the Bible readings are in French. Moi je parle français aussi, so I like the old French too. And then I move on to this other monks, Hallelujah, and then I've got the Magnificat as well, also Gregorian chant in Latin. Keeps me going. I love Beethoven too, the only geezer who made more than 2 notes worth listening to. Ooh. My friends. Little friends. Oh, don't forget Patricia, Poppet. Oh, my lord, be happy, eh? If only. Work Face ID, and how that works too. Supposedly no one else can get into my machines. They've got to look like me, or be me actually. Right, here we go. So lucky old me, count my blessings, and ultimately pray, just pray for ultimately God to intervene. Essentially, mankind, we're not going to sort it. Sorry, it's going the other way. Mankind of itself just can't save itself. There will be Armageddon. Cheerio.